Today, there are many educational kids television programs, but one continues to stand out above the others. This is the history behind one of the greatest innovative children television programs, Sesame Street.
On my way to where the air is sweet. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?
Sesame Street has been on the air so long, most people don't remember life before the street. So, let's go back into the past. Okay, not that far. That's better. Where is this, you might ask? This is television for children before Sesame Street. TV in the 1960s wasn't that great. Most people called this box the boob tube, and boob tube is right. TV then was like a mix between the Sahara Desert and Antarctica. Flat, hot, cold, and boring. Yet, kids were still attracted and would watch practically anything on the screen. A perfect example was young Sarah Morissette, who would spend her mornings gazing at test patterns. Her father, Lloyd Morissette, found her there one morning and wondered if TV could be educational for kids. And that's where it all began. Sesame Street started as a simple concept to assist inner-city children and rural poor in learning. The show was also an experiment to see if TV could teach kids instead of frying their brains.
The beginning consisted of a dream team. Joan Gans Cooney, who wanted to make an educational show for kids, joined with Lloyd Morissette and created the Children's Television Workshop, dedicated to teaching children. Today, it is now called Sesame Workshop, due to the popularity of Sesame Street.
The team also included Samuel Gibbons, the producer, Dave Connell, the executive producer, and John Stone, the producer and director. And who could possibly forget Jim Henson and the Muppets? Originally, the Muppets were going to only be in short skits for transitions on the show.
However, during a pilot test, researchers found out that the kids would only pay attention when the Muppets were on.
They had the determination. They had the idea. They had the people to do it. Now all they were missing was a title and a catchy theme song. Sesame Street was actually the name that the group liked the least. Most of the gang feared that Sesame Street would be too hard for kids to pronounce. The artists had a difficult time coming up with good titles, until eventually someone shouted in their faces to come up with something. And that was exactly how the name Sesame Street came about. Well, now that the show had a title, it needed a theme song.
The music for the Sesame Street theme song was written by Bruce Hart and John Stone, and the lyrics were written by Joe Raposo. Even today, Sesame Street uses the same tune that it did at the very beginning.
Speaking of today, in 2009, Sesame Street celebrated its 40th anniversary. After 40 years of running, only 3 of the original Muppeteers and actors are still on the show today,
including Carol Spiney, who plays Big Bird, and Oscar the Grouch. The other 2 are the actors who play Bob and Susan on the street. Everyone else has either died or retired.
Even though Carol Spiney is still on the show, the crew is preparing a young man by the name of Matt Vogel to replace Spidey when he finally retires or passes away. Spidey doesn't seem offended at the replacement. In fact, when he first met Matt, he commented, "You know, Vogel means bird in German. This may just be the job for you." Other replacements on the street include Steve Whitmire,
who took over when Jim Henson died, as Steve stated as Kermit the Frog in a memorial tribute to Henson. "Hey guys, let's go. This show must go on."
Thanks for that little fact. Now let's go back in time 40 years all the way to New York, November 10th, 1969.
On this day, the very first episode of Sesame Street aired on TV. This first episode included the Muppets Bert and Ernie, Big Bird, Kermit the Frog, and Oscar the Grouch. Not only did this show contain educational components for the kids, but it also included multiracial children and casts playing together. This was still very unheard of, and the state of Mississippi wouldn't air the show because black kids played with white kids. In the first season, Sesame Street proved that television can be educational, a battle cry against racism, and that children can sit in one spot for a long period of time. All important innovations of educational television.
Over time, Sesame Street gained new Muppets, such as Cookie Monster, The Count, Grover, Snuffy, Elmo, Telly, and many others. Sesame Street also went through some tough lessons for children to learn, which was an important, innovative addition to educational TV. When Sesame Street...
Mr. Hooper died on December 1982. The writers and producers decided to explain the issue of death to the kids to show how to cope with a disastrous situation. Another problem that the crew addressed was 9/11. The writers turned the terrorist attack into a hurricane on the street and explained how you can get through the impossible.
In 1984, a young African-American by the name of Kevin Clash, who was doing anything Muppets, was thrown a skimpy red Muppet and was commanded to do something with it. That's how Elmo was born. However, Elmo was originally an anything Muppet and had been voiced by two other Muppeteers before Kevin. Kevin was Elmo's third Muppeteer, and he made the skimpy Muppet a star. As a major innovation in children's TV, Sesame Street started to go global in Brazil with Viva Sesamo. Now the show airs in more than 120 countries, which makes it the most widely viewed children's television series in the world, instructing kids how to handle the situations that they might be facing in their country. So now, educational children's television is spreading across the globe. And if that wasn't a big deal, studies show that preschoolers who watch Sesame Street are more likely to show signs of literacy and numeral skills than non-viewers. By 2008, Sesame Street received more Emmy Awards than any other television show in history. We got a special email from one of the Muppeteers, Fran Brill, who plays Zoe in Prairie Dawn on Sesame Street, about how she got on the street and became the first woman Muppeteer. Fran Brill started when she answered an ad for a Christmas special with Jim Henson.
She did the special, and then was asked by Jim if she wanted to work for Sesame Street. Being the only woman Muppeteer, Fran thought it was great. The guys were nice, very supportive, and they teased her, as guys often will.
Fran says that she thinks that the Muppets are 75% of the show. They draw the children in more than if the show just included people. Sesame Street girl Muppets aren't that common.
However, the show's cast in female parts is growing with Zoe, Rosita, and the newest girl Muppet, Abby Cadabby. These three girls are being innovatively and creatively used to help young ladies not fall into the mean girl syndrome, which usually occurs in teenagers.
We have a lot to thank Sesame Street for. It was the first show dedicated to teaching children and is continuing as a sensation. Even though there are other kids' shows still on the air, such as Dora the Explorer, they still have a long way to go before they can beat the feat that Sesame Street has accomplished as a key innovator of children's educational television. Oh, I have to go now. It's time for Sesame Street!
Can you tell me how to get? Can you tell me how to get? Sunny days we can love.